Welcome to Everywhere We Belong. It's me again, Micah. And today, for our second episode, we're going to dive into some of the latest updates relevant to NRIs and several recent developments in finance and tech. In this edition's news, a significant development has taken place for global trade routes. The India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, also known as the IMEC, announced during the G20 summit in September 2023, faces temporary uncertainty due to the ongoing Middle East conflict. The corridor, supported by India, the US, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and European nations, aims to create a faster alternative to existing trade routes, potentially reducing transit times by 40% through high-speed freight trains. However, recent Houthi militia attacks in the Red Sea have disrupted shipping, forcing major companies to reroute via the Cape of Good Hope, adding significant costs and time to global trade. Interestingly, Israel has displayed considerable interest in being a part of this corridor's development. Despite the ongoing Middle East conflict, senior Indian officials remain optimistic about IMEC's future, with External Affairs Minister Jaishankar and Finance Minister Sitharaman affirming India's commitment to the project. The underlying motivations for the corridor, strengthening US and India and Israel, and India-Gulf relations, along with the Gulf states' need for infrastructure connectivity, remain unchanged, suggesting the project's long-term viability despite current regional tensions. The Adani Group has announced its withdrawal from a significant $442 million wind power project in Sri Lanka, citing financial viability concerns. The project, which was originally signed under interim President Ranil Wickremesinghe, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, in May 2024, involved constructing 2 wind power plants and transmission projects. This decision comes after Sri Lanka's new government attempted to renegotiate power costs from $0.08 to $0.06 or less per kilowatt hour, and amid broader reviews of Adani projects following US authorities' allegations of bribery in Indian power supply deals. Charges that the conglomerate has denied. In an unsurprising turn of events, for those of us that live in Bangalore, 15 German pilots missed the opening ceremony of Aero India 2025 after being caught in our city's notorious traffic, taking 3 hours to cover just 17 kilometers from their hotel to the Yelahanka Air Force Station. I used to live in Yelahanka, and believe me when I tell you, I've seen some traffic. Even though it's an 8-lane highway going over the city, and you see the Jakur Aerodrome to the right, they still manage to really jam that road up sometimes. I say they like it's not my fault as well. I shouldn't be so hypocritical. We managed to jam that up quite effectively somehow. Ridiculous. Anyway, while authorities had set up special contraflow lanes for foreign delegates that reduced typical 5-hour congestion to 1 hour, the pilots opted for regular cabs instead of using these designated lanes. Worst mistake ever. I'm sure they learned that the hard way. The incident occurred despite the city's efforts to manage the record crowds attending Asia's largest defense and aviation event. In a significant development for India's tech sector, Chevron is establishing a $1 billion Engineering and Innovation Excellence Center, abbreviated to ENGINE, in Bangalore, set to be its largest facility outside of the United States. The center will focus on advanced technologies for oil and gas production, carbon storage, and digital twin development for refineries. Speaking at the AI Action Summit in Paris alongside French President Emmanuel Macron, Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized the critical importance of unbiased quality data sets in developing trustworthy AI systems. Modi highlighted the fact that most AI models cannot effectively draw an image of someone writing with their left hand, which displays clearly that AI has been trained on biased information. Not to mention, much closer to home, i.e. at the office, we've attempted to get the Mid-Journey AI model to draw us an image of an Indian family in a modern sedan, but what actually resulted was in fact a brown version of the Flintstones. In my personal assessment, it was crudely drawn and depicted a family in a stone-forged vehicle, if you can call it that, with how rudimentary it was. And while this could have just been a hallucination, as is termed in AI when they make mistakes, or obvious inadequacy in the model's iterating abilities, it showed us that for some reason, certain prompts AI simply cannot answer or adequately serve for some reason. At present, I'm sure that things will become more developed down the line. While hilarious, it displays that there might be something to what he's been explaining. Modi also highlighted AI's potential to transform healthcare, education, and agriculture, while accelerating progress towards sustainable development goals, but stressed the need for open source systems, transparent technology, and solutions rooted in local ecosystems. The Prime Minister also addressed growing concerns about cybersecurity, disinformation, and deepfakes, calling for collective global efforts in establishing inclusive technological governance. I remember not too long ago we were looking at models who could barely draw hands to begin with. So I suppose if they can't draw a left hand, it's some form of progress, but also if biases are not routed out, it will be evident. Let's shift gears to an exciting development from Dubai that could be particularly interesting to our listeners working in sustainability and environmental innovation. The UAE has just unveiled what they're calling the Blue Visa, a 10-year residency program announced at the World Governments Summit 2025, and it's creating quite a buzz in the environmental sector. Here's what makes this visa special. It's specifically designed for sustainability leaders, innovators, and researchers who are making significant contributions to environmental protection. Think international organization members, corporate leaders in sustainability, global award winners, and environmental researchers. In its first phase, 20 pioneering sustainability thought leaders will receive this visa. You can either apply directly through the ICP portal, the letters ICP standing for the Federal Authority for Identity, Citizenship, Customs and Port Security, or be nominated by UAE authorities. The application process is fully digital, available 24/7 through the ICP's website and mobile app. And let me share something that the Minister of Climate Change and Environment said that really captures the vision behind this initiative. She emphasized that this isn't just about attracting talent, it's about leveraging these contributions to achieve ambitious national goals and build a sustainable future for both the UAE and the world. For our NRI listeners working in environmental sustainability, clean tech, or other related fields, this could be a game-changing opportunity. It represents not just a long-term residency option, but a chance to be part of the UAE's broader sustainability vision. Now it's time for Community Highlights, a segment where we share your stories, solutions, and experiences. As NRIs, you all face unique challenges in managing your finances across borders, and who better to learn from than each other? Whether it's discovering, for example, a smart investment strategy, figuring out a better way to handle cross-border payments, or finding innovative tech solutions for your financial needs, your insights could help fellow listeners navigate their own journeys better than before. For this week's edition of Community Highlights, since I don't have many contributions owing to the nascent stage of this podcast, I'll be picking a snippet of conversation from the NRI subreddit. User APS Knight says, "Hey everyone, I recently moved to the USA and am no longer a tax resident of India. I've been reading about the requirement to convert resident Indian bank accounts to NRO, non-resident ordinary, accounts, but wanted to understand the real-world implications of not doing so. Unwise individual. From what I gather, some potential issues could include violation of FEMA regulations. Resident accounts are meant for Indian residents only, and holding them as an NRI might breach RBI guidelines. My bank freezing my accounts. Some banks could flag and freeze accounts if they detect non-compliance. Taxation and penalties. Interest earned might not be reported correctly, leading to tax complications. Remittance issues. Transferring money abroad from a resident account could become problematic. Has anyone faced real consequences for not converting their accounts? Do banks actively check this, or is it more of a self-compliance thing? I'm looking forward to hearing your experiences and advice. I am not planning to send any remittances to my Indian bank accounts while in the US, and the total sum across all accounts is less than INR 1 lakh. Thanks." User Latter Dinner says, "The rules are very clear. I know at least 3 people who've had their accounts frozen. This system isn't a system of making a mistake and asking for forgiveness. It is a system of you make a mistake, we will now extort you. Most people who got caught had to fly back to India to get their accounts unfrozen, and to no surprise were given an ID scrutiny as well. Why flip a coin over something so certain when you know what you have to do?" I spent 1 hour shouting at an Indian income tax officer yesterday over a call that costed me $100 just because their system is f***ed up. You might as well get a colonoscopy instead of dealing with their procedural BS. It's pretty much the same experience. Do the right thing. It'll save you a lot of trouble. I studied psychology for 5 years, guys, and in my expert assessment, I think user latter dinner is done. He's fed up. He's reached the end of his tether, and he's out of patience. It's only text, but I swear I can hear this guy speak when I read this. That colonoscopy image was particularly vivid. Anyway, it just goes to show people that when it comes to paperwork, the Indian government takes no prisoners. Be careful, make sure you dot your I's and laugh when you're in the clear. But not before. I speak from experience. Do you have a funny, shocking, or insightful story to share? A financial hack that's made things easier? Or perhaps a challenge you've overcome? Write to me at micah@getbelong.com. That's MICAH@getbelong.com. No spaces, no caps. Tell me about your experiences with investments, banking, or technology, or just life as an NRI. Maybe you found a clever way to manage multiple currencies or discovered an efficient tax planning strategy. Whatever your story is, we want to hear it. Selected stories, thoughts, and tips will be featured in our future community highlights segments where your experiences could help thousands of other NRIs or just make them chuckle. Sometimes that's enough. We're all part of a global community and sharing knowledge definitely makes us stronger. It's now time for our weekly tip, curated to make your life easier. This is super relevant to what we were just talking about, to what they were discussing, and avoiding those struggles. Did you know that you can now digitally assess your legal status as an NRI? This simple assessment comes in the form of our Compliance Compass, which is an end-to-end checklist that will guide you through a series of questions, your answers to which will reveal how legally compliant you are with the checks and measures required of you from the Indian government when legally establishing yourself as a full-fledged NRI. Once you've submitted your answers, it will provide specific steps and instructions that will tell you what you need to do in order to become fully compliant if you aren't already. Naturally, having this sorted out will afford you all of the allowances and privileges, financial or otherwise, that come with being an NRI. You can find the link to it on our website and app. Check it out now to know exactly where you stand. That's the Compliance Compass by Belong. And that's been this week's episode of Everywhere We Belong. As with the first time, it's been an absolute pleasure bringing you this week's edition of our podcast. Make sure you tune in again a fortnight from now. Thank you for listening and take care. This is Micah signing off on behalf of all of us at Belong.